time for a meal prep. Hi friends, thank you so much for joining me. This week I thought we would do a meal prep video. It feels like it's been a while since I've done one. So this week potatoes were on sale, so 10 pounds of potatoes were $1.99. So once I got them, I thought, well, we'll do some baked potato bars, things like that. But then it's kind of starting to feel a little bit like fall, and of course, official fall was this week. So I thought, ooh, potato soup. So that's what I'm gonna meal prep for this week, is a potato soup. And then to go along with that, I thought I'd make some homemade bread. For breakfast, I went ahead, I found some pumpkin spice bread, and it was also on sale, but it was like, I want to say it was like $3.49 a loaf, so it wasn't super cheap, but for a specialty bread, it wasn't too bad. So I picked that up and I thought, ooh, French toast with the pumpkin spice bread would be really good. So I meal prepped that for you as well. And then for snacks, I'm just going to do fresh fruit, and I still have, peanut butter and just, my usual kind of snacky foods on hand. And then of course, dinner will be whatever my family has. I will just make sure that I keep my calories in check. So let's get into the meal prep. To start the potato soup, I'm going to go ahead and chop up. I have a half an onion here that's left over from something else we had. So I'm going to go ahead and get that chopped up. Okay, so I have my great big, this is my wannabe Le Creuset. This is actually, I believe, a lodge. Let me double check. Yep, a lodge. I absolutely love this thing. So to that, I'm going to add just about a tablespoon of olive oil. So just once quick around the pan. Get some heat on that. And then I'm going to get these onions in there and get them sauteing up until they're brown. And I'll show you when they're to that stage. So while those onions are getting browned up over there, we're just chopping up potatoes into just little bite-sized or cube-sized pieces. Right now I've got about 4.5 cups. So I'm going to chop just one more potato in here. And you can do as much or as little as you want. Obviously, the more you put in there, the heartier it will be, or you can add a little more liquid and it'll go a little farther. So whatever you want to do. Get this last one chopped up. And the smaller the pieces, the faster it's going to cook too. So if you're having to make this, at the last minute, you can chop them even smaller and they'll cook faster. Okay, I'm going to add just a little bit of garlic. Those are mostly browned up, as you can see. So I'm going to add a little garlic to the pan, or a lot of garlic to the pan, whatever you like. And you don't want to burn the garlic, so don't leave it in there too long without moving on. To that, I'm going to add just a 1/4 cup of, this is just all-purpose flour, and you're basically making a roux at this point. And we're going to let that flour cook for just a couple minutes. Not too long, because we don't want it to burn. And then to that pan, I'm going to get a whisk and add in 3 cups of milk. I have 1% milk, but you can certainly use, whole milk or just whatever milk you have on hand that you like. I don't know about using, like almond milk or any of the, non-dairy milks. Oat milk would probably work the best. It's just not going to thicken quite as much, so maybe reduce the amount that you use by a little bit if you're going to have to use, an alternative to regular milk. Get that in there. And this is going to be starting some of that liquid that's going to be our ending soup. And I'm just sort of scraping up those bits at the bottom because we want all that flavor in there. And just kind of whisk that in. We're going to go ahead and add in our potatoes. Switch back to my wooden spoon here and get those all incorporated and covered. And then to this, I'm going to add some of those bacon crumbles. I'm going to start with 4 tablespoons and see what that looks like. Okay, I'm going to go and do 5, I think. That looks good. I just want to make sure every bite has a little bit of bacon, but we don't want to obviously increase the calories too much. Next up, I'm going to put in some of this Better Than Bouillon. This is the chicken flavor. You can also, if you were trying to keep this, you know, vegetarian or vegan, you could use obviously an alternative milk, leave the bacon out, and you could use, they have a vegetable broth instead, so you could use that. And this I'm going to ish measure. I'm trying to get about 2 tablespoons in there. I could do this by weight, of course, but I'm going to do the ish measuring instead. And get that somewhat stirred around. That's going to incorporate more as it boils away. And then we need to add some water. And this is going to depend on, you know, how many potatoes you use, that sort of thing. I have 4 cups of water here, but I may not use it all. I'm just going to sort of eyeball it and see. Yeah, that was the whole 4 cups in there. I think for mine, I have enough potatoes to warrant that. I'm going to go ahead and bring this up so that it comes to a boil, so that all of those flavors get all incorporated together. And I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on, but kind of at a slight offset so that, you know, it doesn't, I don't want it to act as a Dutch oven necessarily. So I'm going to let some of that steam out. Once this starts to boil, I'm going to turn it down and I want it to be just kind of a nice rolling soft boil the whole time. And I'm going to let that cook. I'm going to not check it probably until about 20 to 25 minutes in. Once those potatoes are cooked and falling apart, then we can move on to the next step. Okay, while I have that soup on, it's on just a little bit above low, but it's boiling away. It's been in there about a half an hour already and it's not quite done. So I'm thinking I'm going to go about 45, but I will let you know at the end how long I actually took with it. At the grocery store, I found this, it's a limited edition pumpkin spice bread, and it is 80 calories a slice. So I thought that would be delicious to do French toast this week. So that's what I'm going to do. So you probably don't need instruction on how to do French toast, but we'll walk through it together. It's fine. So I'm going to start with just 2 eggs. And then I'll add more as I need more stuff. Actually, I'm changing my mind. I'm going to start with 3 because I know I'm going to make that much anyway. So, and then to that, I'm going to add some silk almond milk. This is the vanilla unsweetened. And I do just eyeball this. I apologize. But I'm going to guess it's probably 2/3 cup, something like that. It's a splash of vanilla. You can do, you know, teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, whatever you like. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of cinnamon to this. I don't normally do this, but I think with the pumpkin spice, it'd be really good. Could also do pumpkin pie spice. That would be delicious too. And just kind of whisk that all together. Okay, and so I have, let me move my camera here a little bit. So I'm going to keep stirring this as we go because it will get kind of a skim on the top and I don't want to let that get too thick or too gross. So I'm just going to keep stirring this every 10-15 minutes or so. I'm also checking to see if my potatoes are falling apart. They are cooked through, but they're not quite falling apart yet, so I'm gonna let that just keep going. I coated them on both sides, got my first batch on, and I'm just gonna take a quick peek. And this is how I like them, just a little bit golden brown, so you can do them however you like. And then we're just gonna rinse and repeat and keep making these. Okay, next up I'm gonna make a crusty bread, and this recipe is actually one from Big Family Homestead on YouTube, so I will link that down below. They have done a bunch of bread recipes, and the ones I've tried have all been great and have all worked out, so I super appreciate them doing that. So I'm gonna start. This bread is a little bit different. From the time that you start it to the time that you have, that makes like 4 small loaves of crusty bread. So from the time you start to the time they're ready, it's about 3.5 to 4 hours. So you do want to plan ahead and get started a little bit early. So we're going to start with salt. And this is all going into a giant bucket. And this bucket is from Walmart. It's one of their, mainstays, whatever. That still will not come off. So I think that sticker is going to be on there forever. Because I've washed this bucket 1,000 times. And the reason you need a bucket is you need a large, tall bucket so it can rise. And you do need to have a lid. So Walmart sells these for like $10. So I do suggest, getting something like this. So I have 2 tablespoons of salt, And then 2 tablespoons of active dry yeast, Staff instant yeast. So I'm just going to do 2 tablespoons. Right in. And then to that, we're going to add 4 cups of very warm water. This is the only part of this entire recipe that is the least bit tricky. And that's just because you're kind of eyeballing what very warm means. So what I tend to do is just feel the outside, and if I can, you know, keep my hands on it and it doesn't burn me at all, to me that's very warm. So that's what I do. You can actually make it too hot and it will kill the yeast. So that can happen. Hopefully mine's not too hot. So 4 cups of very warm water going into the bucket. And then you're just going to stir that until everything is dissolved. And then we're going to start adding in some flour. And for this recipe, you do need to use bread flour. I've never tried it with all-purpose. I probably never will try it because it has so few ingredients. I feel like it calls for bread flour for a reason. So I would definitely get the bread flour for this one. So I have this, and it'll say right on it, in case you've never bought it before, it'll say bread flour right on it. So I have this gold medal. There's off brands too. My store happens to only carry gold medal. So it's going to take about 8 cups. And the reason it's about is because it depends on the humidity where you're at. It depends on how close to sea level you are. So we're going to add in about 8 cups. We're going to add 2 cups at a time. And it should combine completely, but it'll still be sticky. At some point you may need to get in there with your hands. Okay, that is 4. That's 6. And then after that is where it can kind of become, you need a little more, a little less. So this last 2 cups will be a little slower to add. And you can still see that's way too wet. So that was the 6 cups. I know in my area I have to add all 8. But you'll want to do maybe like 7.5, something like that, to try it out. And the only thing about the bucket is you want to make sure you get those corners, because you can get some flour stuck down there in those corners. And you want to make sure you get it all incorporated. Okay, and you can see this is still pretty sticky. I am going to add about another ½ cup. And that's what I mean. It really kind of just depends on, you know, the weather and what's going on. So the only part about baking bread that can be a little bit more intuitive is just sort of, you know, once you've made it a couple times, you get to know what it should look like and what it should feel like. But it's not hard, and I think people are scared to make bread, and that's why I really appreciated them putting out those videos, because, you know, they showed just how easy it can be, and they're a little bit goofy, so they're kind of fun to watch too. All right, that is much better. Might even do just that last little bit. So I think I wound up with probably about 8 3/4. Yeah, and I want to stop there because I need more dry and it's going to be too dry. So it's also a great arm workout. I'm just going to scrape everything off of my spatula so I don't lose anything. This is where that lid comes in. So we're just going to put a lid on it and then vent one corner. That's it. It sits off to the side for 2 hours and you just let it rise right in there. It will actually come all the way up if my yeast and my water and everything was really good. It'll come all the way up. So we'll see how it does. Okay, so that soup has been in there for an hour. So it should definitely be good to go. I have just a little hand masher and I'm just going to mash up most of the potatoes. I want a few chunks in there. And then also leaving the skin on the potatoes will also leave, you know, a little bit of, you know, kind of a thickness behind. If you want it to be smooth, you can use an immersion blender and, you know, blend it up that way. That will make it all nice and smooth. I may use that for part of it. We'll see. I think I can get it pretty close just with this hand one, but if it's not getting as smooth as I want it, then I'll do that too. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm going to quickly pull off those last 2 French toast. Okay, our French toast is done. Okay, so now we're going to add 3/4 cup of cheese. And I have this Mexican blend. You can use, lower fat cheese if you want to. I wouldn't use fat-free because it just doesn't melt quite right, so I wouldn't use that. But, whatever your favorite cheese is. Okay, that's 3/4 cup. And then I have some sour cream. And same thing we're going to add, and this is a reduced fat sour cream. So again, not fat-free, but reduced fat. And same thing, we're going to do 3/4 cup. And that goes in. And this is just really going to make it that creamy, just decadent potato soup that you know and love. But without adding quite as much, fat and calories as if we'd done, a bunch of butter and a bunch of cheese and heavy cream and all of that, which is in a lot of recipes. And then last thing going in is just a little bit of garlic pepper. And this is really just to taste. I just like a little bit of pepper in mine, so... And it'll just amp up that garlic flavor just a tiny bit more. I'm just going to stir to combine that and melt that all in. And that is ready to go. Okay, so it's time to start filling my meal prep containers. I'm going to start with some of these Costco broccoli florets. Okay, time to add the soup to this. So I'm just going to see how many meal preps this fills. When I put this on my tracker, I will just say, how many servings it made. And then that's how I'll know, how many calories it winds up being. So that's why I'm not measuring right now. I'm just going to evenly distribute it between these 6. And then hopefully that winds up being a good serving size. I think 6 will be perfect. So, because there's still quite a bit in the pan. So I think 6 will wind up being the right amount. Okay, that was perfect with going into 6. To the top of my broccoli, I'm just going to add my usual garlic salt. And then this week, just for something a little bit different, I am going to go ahead and add a little bit of cheese on the broccoli too. I don't usually do that, but the soup calories are going to be pretty low. Although once I have some crusty bread with it, it won't be anymore, but that's okay. So you should weigh this out. I highly recommend weighing this out. I'm actually pretty good at eyeballing, so I'm going to go ahead and just eyeball for myself with this little pinch, but that's all I'm doing is just a little pinch. So it's literally a 1/4 ounce of cheese that I'm putting on the top. So it's next to nothing. That one got a little big. So it's next to nothing that I'm even adding on the top, but it'll just be a little nice treat for when I go to eat these. And that's going to be the lunch prep, and then I'll show you the bread. Okay, this has been rising for 2 hours, and you can see, look at this. It rises all the way to the top. It's literally stuck to the lid. So that's why the bucket is so important. So at this point, you have a couple different things that you can do. We're going to sprinkle some flour on the top and then knock it down. And you can either refrigerate it at this point and use it over the next couple of days, or you can go ahead and make it up, which is what I'm going to do. So just sprinkle, and I'm again using the same bread flour. You probably could use all-purpose for this part. I just always use the same bread flour. And we're just going to kind of knock it down. It'll be all stuck. Okay, so this is going to make 4 little crusty breads about like that. There we go. So basically we're just going to grab about 1/4 of this, and we're just going to keep adding a little bit of flour because it will be very, very sticky. So you don't want to add too much, of course, but enough that you can actually get it out of here and handle it a little bit without it being completely stuck to your hands. So I'm just going to finish knocking that down. And you can see what I mean by knocking it down. I'm basically getting it unstuck from the sides, and now it's about half what it was. And then I'm just going to take probably about a softball size amount of it, maybe a little bit more, because I want about 1/4 of what's here. And then again, I'm just going to keep flouring so that I can handle it. There we go. And then you're just going to kind of, let me make sure I'm on the camera for this part. You're just going to kind of keep turning it. And what I'm doing is I'm tucking underneath. So I'm creating a nice smooth ball on the top. So I'm just tucking underneath every time I'm turning it around. So I'm just kind of tuck, 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 like so. And I have This is a pizza stone, or in this case it's a cookie stone, but any kind of stone with parchment paper ready to go. And that's what I'm going to set it on. And then it's going to need to rest again. And then I'll explain the bowl of water here in a few minutes, but it will have to rest again. So I'm going to get the next one ready so you can watch that again. Taking a nice big clump of it. There we go. And if I accidentally make 5, it's fine, doesn't matter. I'm gonna keep tucking and tucking. This one's a little bit sticky. I probably should put a little on the back here so I can get unstuck from it. There we go. And I'm rotating and tucking. And then I'm gonna set that one down. Okay. And then, like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and probably bake them all up. I don't know, I might do the other 2 in the morning. We'll see. So for now, I'm just gonna throw this in the fridge. So I'm just gonna kind of, it's all pulled away from the edges. It has a nice thin coating of flour on it. So I'm just gonna throw that into the fridge for now. These, I'm gonna go ahead and take, this is just a tea cloth. So if you don't have any, just use a, one of your thinner kitchen towels will be completely fine. I'm going to put warm water on this and rinse it and wring it out really, really well. So it's literally just barely damp if I can get it, get most of the water out. And I'm just going to lay this over it. And then I'm going to let it rest for another 40 minutes before I bake it. So I'm going to go ahead, get that going, and then I'll start the oven so it comes to temperature. I'm going to preheat that oven to 450 degrees, so it's pretty hot. And then I'll show you the next steps. Okay, that 40-minute timer just went off, and you can see how much they puff up. Pretty cool. So now we're going to score them and get them baking. So what you want to do is you kind of want to go around the edges. It's a little hard to do when they're in the pan. In fact, I can move this and I'll make it a little easier. So you just sort of want to score with a really sharp knife around the edges, and you're just giving it room to expand in the oven as it's baking. So I'm just going to do the best I can to kind of score it, and then I'm going to score it across the top in a couple places. And you're just sort of breaking up the surface tension is really kind of what you're doing. It looks a little messy right now, but it'll be fine when it comes out. I promise. Let me score this one. So same thing. And then let's talk about the water. So you want to have, basically, as this is baking, we're also going to kind of steam it a little bit. And that's what's going to make the top all kind of crusty for the crusty bread. So, oh, this one's cutting better. So, what you can do is you could do it like this in the oven. You can put it next to it. It doesn't have to be kind of on the same tray. I'm just doing it on the same tray because I don't really care if I get in the way of it expanding a little bit. And then it's just sort of all in one tray. It's easier to pull out. So a couple things you can do from here. If you want to, you can put butter and sesame seeds on them, which is quite good. I've done it before. Because I'm going to try and keep my calories in check, I'm not going to do that with these. But I'm going to go ahead and pop them in that oven that's preheated to 450 degrees. And I'm going to bake this for 30 minutes. And I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. And that bread is out of the oven, so it looks delicious. You can see the water has evaporated actually quite a bit. So be very careful with it because obviously it just came out of the oven. It's going to be boiling hot. So this is our bread. I'm going to see if it's done. I might pop it back in for just a couple more minutes, even without the water. What you want to do is you just want to tip it up and then you kind of tap on the bottom. That sounds done. Bread has this kind of like hollow sound when it's done. Yeah, both of those sound done. So I'm just going to let them sit until I can actually handle them and then go ahead and cut them. And I'm probably going to go ahead and use the smaller one for my meal preps. And I'm going to cut that into 6 pieces. So I'm just going to cut it straight down here and then in an X. So that way I have 6 pieces to go with my 6 soups. And so I'm going to take the smaller one just to make sure that I'm not going over calories. And then we'll use the bigger one with dinner. So that is our bread out of the oven. Delicious. I hope those recipes inspired you to do a little meal prepping this week. I think I'll be having quite a few soups coming up over the next couple of months because both soups and also casseroles are really kind of sounding good to me. So I have a feeling both of those actually do meal prep really well and they freeze really well. So I think I'll probably be doing a few of those over the next few weeks. As you know, I've kind of stalled, so I'm hoping I've been upping my exercise the last couple of weeks. Although last week I was off the rails with my eating, which is partially why I decided meal prepping needed to happen this week. So, but I am upping my exercise and just make sure that, you know, I continue to keep my metabolism going because you don't want to just cut calories and not also increase, you know, muscle and things like that. So, so I'm just trying to make sure that I keep my metabolism revved up and hopefully get through this kind of stall that I'm stuck in right now, which, you know, part of it is, you know, those times when I'm not following perfectly as I should be, because, you know, we're all human. And then part of it I feel like is just the fact that I have a desk job and I sit for far too many hours a day. So hopefully by increasing my exercise, I'll get to where I want to be. So let me know in the comments down below how your journey is going. If you like these kind of meal prep videos, be sure to click the like button, click subscribe if you haven't already, and click the bell for notifications if you'd like notified each and every Saturday when I upload. Thank you so much for your time and watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys. I look crazy. It probably has. It feels like I've been a while. This, whatever this is that's in my hand. Oops. I have to go pull the next set of bread out, so 1 second.